So in the last video, I put hashtag Diddy also in the title. And after 30 minutes, I had 253 views or whatever it said. Well, that's just not how my feed works. So we have to ask, what is it? Is it just coincidence? Another one of those coincidences? We'll see. If this part 2 does any better, well, that's kind of telling. Maybe we'll see, and I'm just wrong and mistaken, and I'll look like an idiot here, as always. But I I'm almost overwhelmed by it. Like, the way it bothers me. This idea of Diddy being like the godfather, of the whole thing. Him being the sole focus. And then, again, the people, like, there's all these famous people that are associated with him that are leaving the country. Leonardo DiCaprio's gone to hang out in France where they don't have real strong extradition laws. But it's almost like, why would anyone think this is going to be different? Why would you think that would you think this is going to crumble Hollywood? No. This is going to destroy and break the entertainment industry? No. Especially since we're not even really looking at, like, when I look at all of the names that get brought up, Kevin Hart and Diddy and all that whole stuff. But then, Diddy's connections to Leo. Well, Leo, not a J. Ellen, she's a J, but she's a she. And she's gay. So she's, like, utterly useless to the male J's that control the world. What are they going to get out of her? Other than, that domination thing, which would probably actually be pretty seductive to some, getting a J broad to do shit, like, a gay broad to do shit to you is probably, if you're sick like that, knowing she's hating it and you get off on that, that might be something. But Ellen's been in, like, Ellen was the one, like, do you guys remember when we were supposed to trust the plan? Remember, just as COVID was really starting to sort of break open and Me Too was really catching fire, and Oprah and Ellen, they had tunnels under their houses, and Ellen had a tether. She was on house arrest or whatever, and remember all that shit? And everybody that all the truthers were telling you to trust the plan. You had Q Anonymous telling you to trust where's Q? Where's QAnon? Have you heard of QAnon in a while? God, isn't that weird? Where'd QAnon go?
The last time I heard that name, it was used in a derogatory way. Like, oh, I bet you believe in QAnon.
Yeah, that's what it was for. That's why QAnon was as big as it was. So that when people need to, they can go, oh, I bet you're one of those QAnon supporters.
Yeah. And that was probably a year ago. Like, it's been a while.
Probably since Trump, I think. I think Trump and QAnon are directly associated. But isn't that, it's funny, it just dawned on me now. I haven't heard that name in a very long time. Have you? I know I never trusted it. While all of you were falling for QAnon, I was saying, what are you doing? This completely anonymous group is giving you stories that are almost like they're being fed to them, and they're telling you to trust the plan. When we were ready to revolt, as a people, we were ready to revolt. When they were first putting COVID on us, and all of the shit that had happened leading up, like, people forget what 2018 was. What 2019 was. 2019 started with we were supposed to all give a shit about Michael Jackson, who had been dead, and the Neverland Ranch. We were supposed to give a shit about Michael Jackson, and we were supposed to give a shit about measles. We were all going to get measles, remember? We needed to run out and go get measles pokes because in 2J neighborhoods in Pennsylvania, which also happen to be the neighborhoods that everything sort of happened. So the shootings happen in that neighborhood. The Braxton, what's his name? Braxton. Fuck. I don't remember what his name was, but the guy that attacked the fucking the Hanukkah celebration, the guy he was stabbing people with a machete. All these stories take place in this small little J neighborhood. And they were saying that there were like 1,200 cases of measles in the United States. It just popped up. And we needed to run out and get it. And out of that 1,200, like 900 were just in these small neighborhoods, these small J neighborhoods. And then it just went away. It just disappeared. But we were supposed to care about the whole pedo situation. But then Epstein came into the picture. And when Epstein comes into the picture, Michael Jackson's story just fades away. When was the last time you heard the Neverland story come back up? Fleeing Neverland, remember? Like in every single one of those Michael Jackson stories or whatever, no one fucking says, who the fuck are these parents that let their kids go hang out with a grown man? I don't even believe necessarily a lot of that stuff when it comes to Michael. I don't know. I don't fucking know. But I just, there's not a man that my kids can go hang out with.
No, not one. I mean, maybe my dad.
Right. Or even our neighbor, maybe, like, they wanted to go do the race cars or something like that, yeah. But some famous person? No. But see, I was, this is going to be like a little offshoot, because a lot of you aren't going to, I'm going to talk about wrestling, and I know you guys don't like wrestling, but the whole steroid scandal that hit sports. Do you guys understand that steroid scandal was the cover-up? What? The steroid scandal is the cover-up. Because what was coming out, it started with the WWF at the time. And what most of you don't understand is that the WWF wrestling is bigger than most sports. Like it's higher revenue than most sports out there. But it starts with the Ring Boy scandal. And the Ring Boy scandal is kind of like, I mean, it's one of these things where you go, wait a minute. They were having unpaid boys travel around with them and do all the ring setups and all that stuff. And really, when you look at it, there are ball boys, there are bat boys, there are little boys that are associated with sports everywhere. As a matter of fact, one of the more famous bat boys is MC Hammer. MC Hammer was an Oakland ball boy for the Angels or the Orioles or whatever. And he also happens to be like the nephew or something of Hank Aaron. And like, it's all connected, obviously. But the boys scandal started to come out in wrestling. And WWF is not a sport, it's entertainment. No shit. That's why I said it's bigger than most sports. Did you hear what I said that? And it's extremely athletic, and none of you could do it. Absolutely. None of you could do what they do. No doubt about it. Doesn't mean they're not super tough and couldn't kick your ass or whatever. But anyway, that's not the point. The point was, in the WWE, the WWF is set up as this weird hierarchy where they literally had people in the highest positions who had certain kinks. So the first position was the ring boy. And the guy that was in charge of that, his name was Mel Phillips. He was a black dude. And Mel Phillips, like you go look it up. Go look up Mel Phillips and just look at all the stories of all these piece of shit wrestlers who absolutely knew what was going on and didn't say anything. They all talk about how he was weird and gross and used to play with the guy's feet and all this other shit, blah, 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 blah. Play with the kid's feet, sorry. And then once they aged out of Mel Phillips's liking and they became like teenagers, because he liked the preteens. Once they became teenagers, they would go to Terry Garvin. And then once they got to be like 18, 19, they would go to Pat Patterson and Vince McMahon. But I was watching this story of this guy, this Jay Writer, or a reporter, something like that. And he was talking about how when he was a kid, he was a huge wrestling fan, and he had an experience with Mel Phillips. And of course, within 2 minutes, he has to admit, well, I was just a young J kid in New York. I didn't know any better, I was just a young J kid. They always bring their shit into it, right? And he says that he went to a thing, and Mel Phillips started chatting him up, and was like, hey, well, why don't you come on by and, you can come to my hotel, and we'll hang out, we'll talk wrestling, and mind you, he's like 12. So he goes and he tells his mother, and he's talking about how grateful he is to have such a wonderful mother who told him that he could go, but he just had to take a friend with him. No, actually, the first thing she did is she said, no, I don't want you going. Have him over for dinner. They had him over to the house for dinner. And then after that, he was like, all right, so you can, and then and his mom was like, well, no, you got to take your friend. If my kid comes home and says that some guy started chatting him up and wanted to,
grown man,
right, wanted him to come hang out at his hotel, I am going to follow up.
Yeah, with a police phone call.
Right. And if the cops don't do anything, well, then he might get invited over. And he might get the shit beat out of him. Or at least he'll be scared. Pee his pants kind of scared that night. But like, this guy is praising his J mom for being so aware and so, I'm just so grateful she was so in tuned and aware. What?
She was trying to sell your ass for some money. I don't know.
It's what they do.
Trying to be a pimp.
It's what they do.
That's what those parents do. If you put your child in
Hollywood, that's what they do. That's what the dowries and all that shit is about. Children are commodities. Eating placentas, eating foreskins.
When you were talking about...
I brought that one up to your brother once about the eating the foreskin. He was like, that's not true, that's not true, that's not true.
Right, because it's so unbelievable. Nobody could believe that somebody would do that.
Right.
And, when you come at somebody with that shocking of a statement, especially to somebody that is opinionated as he is.
Arrogant. As arrogantly opinionated as he is. Because he's very...
You have to have something to back it up.
Well, you could easily...
Futile argument.
But what am I gonna back it up with?
What do highlighting what those steps are.
But again, I don't carry that shit with me. So I could say, hey, this is, and I could show you the, but you're going to see and believe what you want to believe. That's all we ever do. We only see, believe, understand what we want to understand. Again, the Jay Ryder, not being disgusted by his mom, he wanted to see her as his Jay mother and how great, they think their mothers are the world. Hang on a second.
We were talking about the female athletes. This came up in Ohio.
So you fought to become part of the Boy Scouts just so you could start your own girl-only troop and do things separate from the boy. That sounds like Girl Scouts with extra steps.
So the girls fought to be in Ohio in the Boy Scout troop, and now they're starting their own girls only.
Do you know why all that exists?
So stupid.
It exists because
there's Girl Scouts.
We inherently want to fix the situation. The Goyim are much better than we've been led to believe we are.
But that's not the problem.
Wait.
Wait.
Exactly. So as we grow up and we all see the problem, and we have our elderly parents and grandparents talking about the Jays and how they can win. By the time you're in your 20s, you have at least heard and started to see, whether you believe it or not, but you've heard the Jays control the money, the power, the government, the entertainment industry, blah, blah, blah. You've heard that. And if you've given it any sort of thought, any sort of, you've looked into it any bit, you've then validated it. So as these creatures who are told to make the best of our situation, and if you see something, say something, and stand up to what isn't right, and all these cliche things, you're also at the same time told you're not allowed to talk about them. You can barely talk about good shit, let alone bad shit.
Well, I think...
And so, hang on. So because we all want to fix it and find the truth, and then we do find the truth and fix it, or we do find the truth and then try to fix it, but get told that we're not allowed to, that makes everyone angry. That's where depression comes in. That's where the shit like this comes in, because you want to fix it, and so this energy, this need is being misguided and manipulated by the people around you to distract you. If they can get you focused on something stupid like this for however many years that you're fighting this battle, and then you're keeping up the bullshit and all of it, and then the aftermath, you're not going to talk about Israel, are you? You're not going to talk about the Jays at all. You're going to be talking about your thing. And you're going to be trying your best to swim against the stream because you're stupid. That's the stupidest fucking shit you could. Stupid. You're going to, but at the same time, you're also, they have to do that.
They don't. There's Girl Scouts.
They have to. If they're gonna make them Boy Scouts, they're not going to win anything. They're not going to do anything. They're going to get all those dumb little girls who, with their short haircuts, and their moms are the ones that are like, you're going to be a Boy Scout. Nah, 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 nah. Because these are the girls that don't fit in already in their world. So their moms want them to fit in so bad.
Girl Scout rejects?
No, they're just rejects, so to speak. Just the rejects in general. So the kids, they end up joining. Well, the boys are going to get all the badges. They're going to win all the competitions. They're going to do all that shit, physical at least. Now, when it comes to the smart stuff and the thinking things out,
but see, that's
the girls will win.
You don't compete against the other people. You compete against yourself. It's all about you. Earning the badges.
Absolutely.
So,
but at the same time, when all the boys are like, we got our badges, and you did, like, the boys already don't want you there. This is Boy Scouts.
Boy Scouts. There's Girl Scouts. They do the same shit.
But this is one of these absolutely unnecessary, like, literally the fact that we've even been talking about it for 5 minutes. that is such a waste of time and energy, like it's supposed to be.
Well, the thing is, like,
Because we're definitely not talking about how at least 12 of the like factions that took over Syria have been shown to be funded by Israel. We're not talking about that, are we?
the thing is that the majority of the population is not part of Hollywood. So
Yes, we are.
No, they're not. They don't have anybody in Hollywood.
No, we are.
Okay, but that doesn't matter.
You look at it from your perspective. You forget to think that people like your mom, who and sister, who are absolutely all about the royal family because the TV says so.
I understand that, but that's not what I'm saying. Because they're not personally involved with Hollywood. When they hear shit like, "Oh yeah, the Jays run Hollywood,"
They already
it's
know
like,
it.
okay, yeah, so what? It has nothing to do with me.
Well,
so
and that's an issue. That is an issue, but it does have to do with you. I mean,
and I've never send my kids there because of course that shit happens.
But you also have to understand that, like,
so it's
the situation is bigger than you think it is. So when some Hollywood reject whose ass has been blown out and mouth has been blown out and they're just all fucking PTSD crazy, all fucking trying to get drugs, doing whatever, and they come rob your house, well, then it has to do with you, doesn't it?
No, they're just a bad person that does drugs
But it does. But that's what I'm saying. Like, this is what you have to show people.
People don't look
right, but that's because they're not told to. And it's up to people like us to tell them, hey, look at it like this.
Well, and that, that's also shows all of the fucking homeless drug addicts in Hollywood and California, period. That's the result of that.
I just saw this video where this guy asked ChatGPT how much money it would cost to fix the homelessness situation, fix the hunger situation, and each one, how much would it cost to fix hunger, 20, I think said estimated 25 billion or 25 million, whatever. 25 billion. To fix homelessness and provide programs, what would be another 50 billion. And then to send everyone to college, to university, to college, free, would be another 50 billion. And he said, okay, so how much have we given Ukraine? And it's like 175 billion or something, is it? And it's like, so are you saying that we've given Ukraine enough money to fix the homelessness situation, to fix the hunger situation, and to send everybody to college for free?
Yes.
Yes. Plus more money. But see, that's at least with Ukraine, and believe me, it's dumb, but at least with Ukraine, you're told that we're supporting the victim. You're told that.
We're also told that about Israel.
Yeah, but you don't see that about Israel. You're. I know they tell you that.
Yes, we do, because we see commercials with the Holocaust survivors.
Right, but if you actually look into the situation, if you try to find, go look up Israelis killed by Hamas. See if you can find a single fucking video.
It's not a typical average person that's
look up Palestinians killed by Israel, and the video list is endless.
Does that have to do with Black Friday and my Christmas shopping?
Right. It's all tied together. Who gives you Black Friday? Why do we celebrate Christmas? All of that stuff. If you're willing to put in as much effort as you've put into your belief in Jesus or your job or whatever it is you do,
oh my gosh,
if you put that same effort into just looking into these, like, again, I'm not some fucking genius. All I do is look shit up.
For the week leading up to Christmas and on Christmas, I wanted to listen to Christmas music to try to brighten my spirits in the cup. And the only channel I could find that was just straight good Christmas music, unfortunately, was this Christian channel, Kayla.
Shut up or I'm gonna hit you, because I hit you. Don't threaten to hit her this time.
Okay.
I'm gonna hit you. I'm gonna hit you. I'm gonna hit you again. See that? Got to call the police.
Anyhow, Caleb, in between their songs, like I got to a point where I just tuned it out because, oh my God, the Jesus this and the Jesus that.
It's
and
everywhere.
Jesus is responsible for everything wonderful in your life.
But you see it like
oh my God.
the Christians are, it's this weird thing where like, it's almost like Christians are defending themselves.
Let's have callers call in with their miracles, and people are calling in
With
all their
nonsense. Every single miracle is something that could be easily explained.
No, Jesus Christ sat on the bench with her and got her sober and brought all these people to her with donations and housing.
How about the fact that prior to you getting sober, Jesus let you be a piece of shit?
No, that's man's will, man's free will.
But Jesus wasn't there helping you.
Oh, he was the one that kept you alive so that you would get to the point where you could heal.
Why would you need to go through all that?
Because you needed to learn something.
Why did you need to learn it that way?
Because you weren't learning other ways.
What ways were you taught? Like, what other ways were you shown?
Don't know. What? Yeah. Losing your job. It could be.
Yeah, but that happens to everybody. That happens to everybody. That's just a part of life.
A lesson being taught to you.
But that's a part of life.
And
It just happens.
That's Jesus.
It's
all Jesus.
The fact is, like, can you imagine if I was like, all right, so you guys don't have jobs. Nick, Nate, you don't have jobs. So I don't know how you're gonna eat. You guys got to figure out something. So maybe get out there and beg. Maybe I don't really know, but you got to come up with some food. Well, that's what we're saying. Like when we say Jesus lets you fail and Jesus lets you get hurt and Jesus lets you fall to teach you a lesson.
That would be, teaching them strength and resourcefulness.
No, that would be abuse. That's unnecessary abuse. That will cause more negatives to happen. You're not gonna that you would have to wait until you're 38 years old before you fucking moved on or whatever. That's not. I wouldn't do that.
The Christian spin that I heard on all different types of shit was absolutely incredible. I was laughing. I started tuning that part out. I made me laugh.
It is funny.
Is anybody else hearing this?
It's funny until you realize that
people actually believe it, right? I think that
desperate people want to believe it. I don't think they do.
No, I really do.
I know you do.
I think Ginger believes that. She really, to her core, believes it.
If she believed that shit, she would have shut the fuck up. If any of you actually believe in that shit, well, there are some really specific guidelines that you're supposed to follow.
That's Old Testament. That's
no, it's not.
New Testament. That's what they say.
1 Timothy 2:11 is New Testament. But that's what I'm saying. Like if you honestly believed it and you honestly believed that there was any chance in hell that you could spend the rest of eternity in hell.
The man that bought our telephone pole or whatever the hell he came and bought, that religious dude.
Yeah.
He literally, and he used to be an atheist. He converted to Christianity, and he truly believed it to the point that he was trying to convince.
Sweet.
In a loving care.
That go by in a blink of an eye, buddy.
He was one of the very few that I've come across that wasn't judgmental, trying to guilt you, but he was really trying to be loving and caring about it. But he believed it with all of his soul.
The reborn or whatever.
Sat and would pray with that roommate lady that lived with him.
What are they called? Born again Christians. They're generally the worst, but at the same time, these are adults who have made decisions. This isn't.
We've been through big tragedy.
Right, of course. This isn't kids that have been forced to think this way. This is adults who have decided to think this way. And 100% of the time, it's based in tragedy. It's based in tragedy that they couldn't quite handle, so they went into this fairy tale land.
Which I, at the end of the day, is ultimately healthier than drugs.
No, it's not. It's not. It's not. What's healthy is dealing with it properly.
Well, of course.
The religious thing is completely unhealthy because what happens when it falls apart? You have to deal with the stuff. It will.
Society supporting
It will for you personally, because there'll be that thing that you really do honestly believe that you're gonna get. You're praying. You've done all, and it doesn't come through.
They have the explanations.
I get it, but at some point that's gonna let you down.
Part of God's plan.
At some point that's gonna let you down. At some point, you're going to have that. And that's unhealthy. That's just unhealthy. And any way you look at it, it's unhealthy. So if you say it's more healthy than turning to drugs and alcohol, for sure.
The lesser of two evils.
Right. But it's still completely unhealthy. But at the same time, there are other things that the Bible says, like was that guy vegetarian? No. Like there are all sorts of things that guy, he's already not getting in. He had sex before he was married. He sinned a lot. The whole loophole of if you repent and blah, 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 all it says is if you repent that you'll live forever.
Not necessarily in heaven.
Right.
Probably that whole purgatory area they talk about.
Not anymore. Purgatory doesn't exist anymore. You understand?
Aliens do and purgatory doesn't.
Forever, they told women that had stillborn babies and shit like that their babies wouldn't be in heaven, that they went to a place called purgatory that was a nothing, just in between, and they stayed forever in purgatory. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
Can you just imagine?
It was like my dad's mom. I think one of the main reasons she clung to the fact that believed that my dad was killed and didn't commit suicide
was so that
his soul would go to heaven. She was gonna
no, it's because the story that you're given is absolute bullshit.
Even if it were not, she would still hang on to that because
whatever.
She couldn't live.
There's not an even if. There's no hypotheticals here. The story about your dad is 100% absolute bullshit. It's impossible. It's literally not possible. So that's a whole different story. I mean, it's not possible. You can't do it.
But see, I don't think she even knew those technicalities because she never shot a gun. She never held a gun. She wasn't.
She still. She knew. She knew. Hi.
It sounded like it went that way towards the door more.
Nope. It's actually closer.
That's weird.
I mean, it's.
But like I said, even still, it would be her refusal to think her son's soul was being tortured in purgatory.
She's been brainwashed. She's a brainwashed.
Of course.
I'd say this like meaning the best, but it's not the nicest thing to say. But
she was,
all
my family members, she was among the most sheltered and brainwashed. Absolutely.
It doesn't matter. You are exponentially more intelligent than your grandparents and your parents. All of us are. All of us are. We literally walk around with that intelligence in our hands. Now, applying things and like there are, depending on, now again, capabilities and all that shit, no, they were much more capable than we are. But as far as your dad, your dad did not have access to the information that you have.
Well, no, but that's not me knowing it. That's just me being able to access it.
Still,
The shit he
you
had in
knowing
his
it
head
and
and knew.
the shit that you have in your head and know that goes out, like he knew what they wanted him to know
Well, it was
100%.
relevant at the time, sure.
Right. But it was not just relevant at the time, it was very carefully crafted so that, people thought this certain way. So everything that people believed was in there. And there would be these outlying stories that if you had a ham radio or you had, but even then, it just didn't matter.
See, and then there's also he supposedly worked for the CIA, worked for the mob.
Right.
He had access to shit that the average person didn't, if any
Absolutely.
of that was true.
It's fucking true. You know it is. You know it is. You just don't want to believe it because you want him to be the bad guy. And this would be a
that
great.
would make him a bad guy too.
It would make him a bad guy, but it would give explanation. It would
Not
be
excuse.
it would be understandable. It's not an excuse, but like you said, you could do the job. So if you could do the job and he did the job, what's the difference? You know?
Because that's a choice.
Yeah,
Just 'cause I
it's a
could
choice
doesn't
for
mean I
you
should.
in 2024 and whatever. When we're talking about the America that existed prior to the internet,
In America that saved his family from concentration camps and gave his family a life. That's also,
supposedly we only know the narrative that they were given. We only know what they want us to know. And this is like my wife and I have been having issues about this lately, but it's like people just don't want to understand that their parents are not who they think they are. As your parents, they inherently put on an act.
But there's
Even me, I'm not the same person I am in real life with my kids.
Like, okay, when I sat down and did the family tree with my dad's mom, and she was telling the story of coming to America, and she was talking about when they got the glimpse of the Statue of Liberty. Like, we were so happy. It was like, oh my God.
What's that have to do with it?
So
That's nothing.
that helped create the whole love for America.
Absolutely, but she was also just she was a tiny piece who was given the tiniest little piece of information. She didn't know.
Oh no, I know that.
She was told, hey, you're getting this really great opportunity. Come on, we're giving this to you because they're creating the narrative.
Right, and that's something that our generation and those that are after us don't know. We can't.
Yeah, at the same time, they could have a family, a house that they owned, car, put their kid through college and work at a grocery store. Yeah, things were like the America that they grew up in.
Sure.
At the same time, the America they grew up in doesn't make any sense. And my wife is very skeptical, and you got to be skeptical about everything. And she is skeptical about everything. But you start looking into the Chicago, layout, the tunnels, the train station, and all this, and you just start getting into these stories that don't match the Yaya story. The poor peasants who just came across and they didn't have. Okay, well, who was doing all this amazing shit? It's not like when you look at it, Yaya had all these skills that she could put into use.
Oh, she wasn't allowed to work or drive or.
Right, but even still, it's not like there's no stories of any, and nobody has the stories of their grandparents who worked on the Empire State Building, who built the Empire State Building. Who, we just don't have those narratives. It doesn't match up. And
I don't even know what Leonardo did.
exactly.
I don't even know what he did. He
How
died
did
when I
he
was
come over
16.
here, not speaking the language,
He worked in a restaurant.
and I mean, they had a fucking house in Grosse Pointe.
I don't know if he ended up doing maybe an electrician. I
And
don't
where did
even
he get
know.
that skill set from? He didn't go to school.
No, back then, from what I've been told, and this is on both sides, the Greeks, all the different factions, the Poles, the whatever, they all like helped each other and taught each other different trades to like that's why my brown Yaya's husband taught Theo Perry when he came here how to paint and do wallpaper. So he would have a skilled trade so he could provide for the family.
Yeah, that's not architecture. That's not
Well, I didn't have
invention.
anybody in my family that did that. So
Right,
I
right.
don't
But
know.
that's what I'm saying. You don't just build buildings.
My family
You
wasn't
don't
that
just
cool.
you don't just have
They were workers.
like you were this really smart kid who, given some paper and a pencil, you can design a building. It's not how you could draw a building from the outside, but can you design the trellises and the
The
trusses and
weight bearing
the weight, all
walls.
that shit? You don't know that shit. That's all shit you need to learn. So where did they learn it all? Where did all these skilled craftsmen learn how to carve insane, murals and statues and just even just the decoration? I mean, if you go look at the old houses, just the old houses themselves, it's not like there is, like, even this isn't something you'd see in a modern house.
No.
And that's not even really that decorative.
When I did mortgages, I went to hundreds of houses all throughout Detroit.
Floorboards,
And
everything is ornate as
but
fuck.
not only that though, but I would do, I'd have a street where I would they'd spread the word with the neighbors, and I would do multiple houses on the same street.
And none of the houses
And
are the
not
same.
one of them were the same. They
No.
were all different. They had, some had like hexagon type doorways from their living room to their dining room. Some were arched. Some just had this ornate woodwork, like
It's
the
insane.
ceilings. Some of them would be like plaster ceilings, but they would like go up in a backwards nipple. I don't know how to describe it. In the center with then ornate woodwork around, like just
And this is out of plaster.
amazing.
This is plaster. Plaster is
is-
fucking difficult.
And then you get the appraisal and it's fucking $35,000 house. Like what? With 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, big ass, just
Don't
sit.
pull her fucking real estate button. Seriously. She will just go.
But the architecture was always.
And then I'm getting comps and I'm talking to the guy and I'm saying, can't you get me?
But the architecture was incredible. It was always something I loved to admire when I'd go into those old houses.
I mean, go look at the new buildings that are created.
They're so stark and cold.
Boring and
Like a friend of mine bought like this was at the time like 750,000. I'm sure it's over $1 million now. Kim and Graham, and it was this big beautiful house. But you walked in, there was no woodworking done. It was all just stark lines and
not inside
very
or outside.
cold and uninviting. Even when she decorated it, like you still didn't get that warm, cozy feeling like the old architecture
And
provides.
many years, 5-10 years later, everything's falling apart.
Oh yeah,
These houses aren't going to last 100 years.
Well, and they show. I just saw some of it disappears now. Some of it has to do with the wood that's available to build these homes. Like people,
Why are we still using wood to build homes?
They're showing, the trees that the wood was harvested from back in the day were older trees, so the striations throughout the tree are closer together, and it makes for a harder, more solid wood that lasts longer. Anything after the 80s, we're harvesting these trees as soon as they get tall enough to provide long enough pieces of wood.
Yeah,
For the
that sure, I'm sure that
And
has
it's
something
not-
to do with
the
it.
wood isn't as sturdy as
But you're
won't
also
last as long.
you get these narratives of like when we're looking at like what the fuck? Why can't I remember the name? The Vanderbilts. And you look at the Vanderbilt houses, and you look at how, you know, the one broad had her house built in 1883, and in 1883 she threw a $3 million party to celebrate her house opening.
Party.
It cost $3 million in 1883.
You could have fed the homeless in your entire county.
You could have fed the world in 1883. 1883, $3 million is
God.
I don't even know what that would be worth today.
It's fucking sick. It's not something to brag about.
But see, you get caught up in that shit. And you don't ask yourself, okay, so you're talking about New York. Talking about 1883. If there's electricity, it's not super common. The roads are all dirt. So everybody is they have 1,000 people arriving in their Sunday bests.
All their horses shitting all over the front yard.
I mean, where do you park all those horses? How does that even work? Just that in itself, to me, really makes me question narratives.
So it was like
yeah. Okay, well, restart it.
It was at 48%, and then it just took me back to the re-update.
Okay, well, redo it.
Restart it.
Do it later.
It was probably a $1 party that got blown into a $3 million party.
Absolutely not. It was opulence on a level you can't even fathom. And so you know, you hear these stories. So again, the Vanderbilts, like, she had one of the rooms in the house was built and designed in Paris, and then was shipped over.
On a boat.
Yeah, 1883.
And if there was a mountain in their way, they threw it on a railroad car and had donkeys pull it over, and then they put it back on a boat and got it to her.
I mean,
Carrier pigeons flew ahead and said it's coming.
Right, we'll be there on Tuesday. I mean,
that's it.
And you get these, you know, other, you know, different rooms of the house are you know, marble from Kentucky, and you know,
from Kentucky.
Right.
Fuck that. If your marble's not from Italy,
whatever it is, all the, you know, certain stands, all these different materials from all these different countries all over the world. It's 1883.
America's the best. Why do you want shit from other places?
Well, America's the best because of the freedoms. It's not necessarily the best because of the landscape. But these narratives were given, like, all the Vanderbilts had summer houses. Get it? It is. It is. All the Vanderbilts had summer houses and Newport. And the biggest of these houses was called the Breakers. And the Breakers...
Dad, I just got a new character in my game.
Cool. Yeah, I know.
Don't flare up.
Boring.
No!
The biggest of these houses was the Breakers. That's what it was called.
The style of home?
No, the name of the house is called the Breakers. That they named their houses back then. And this house... Can I see your phone for a second? You know what? They don't need the phone anymore. Oh, wait, he's using it.
Yeah, he's downloading something.
No, he's playing his game. Let's see. The Breakers. Newport Mansions. So this is the Breakers. Oh no, I don't want that. I want the. Well, here, let me show you. Here's some more pictures. Okay, there you go.
Who needs that?
Look at this. Look at this shit. Everywhere
If you're
you
not
look.
turning that
But
into
but
like
look. Okay,
a
so
sanctuary
what are we
for,
building that every
kids
square inch has decoration on it?
uh-uh.
Has look at this. Look at this shit. Ants, look at it.
No. I mean, it's
Everything
beautiful,
is
but
and this isn't like you can't mess this up. These are all huge pieces of solid this and that. You make one mistake
change the
and
label.
it throws everything off. And the thing is, it's not like they made mistakes and just cleverly covered it up.
No.
There's no mistakes. Everything is perfect to within like the micro millimeter, blah blah blah, whatever.
It's all a piece of art.
It's all look at
That's
that.
what it
Look
is.
how many chimneys this motherfucker. Look, this is this I guess from the back. Here's what? Oh, this must be just another one of the properties. Look at that. Look at that. Who lives in there? Why would you need space that big?
Like I said, if you have that much and you're not turning it into a
Point,
sanctuary,
they
you're a piece of
didn't.
shit.
This house is not built in the 1800s. This house is founded in the 1800s. You know, they obviously much bigger people lived in here. What else can you say? It's not like you say, oh, they just wanted this one. All of the rooms are that big. All of the rooms have height that is twice as three times as high. It's not just certain rooms. Every single room has insanely vaulted. Look at that. How high do you think that ceiling is?
Oh, fucking ridiculous.
40,
2
50 feet?
stories?
No, it's bigger than
2
that.
stories?
I mean, the first story itself, look at the windows. That's 2 stories on the bottom floor.
I just don't see who needs that. Like I said, unless
Well,
you're turning
it's
it
not
into a school or
that doesn't matter. I mean, if you
nobody needs
if
that much
you
space.
well when you look at it that this was the summer home. This wasn't even like and they would keep these places. They would store all their stuff in these places because they had all of these antiquities from all over the world somehow. Because they founded it. Why do you think it's called founded? Seriously, do you understand? They're telling you right there. Here's the Breakers. The Breakers is a Gilded Age mansion located at 44 Ochre Point Avenue, Newport, Rhode Island, U.S. It was built between 1883 and 1895 as a summer residence for Cornelius Vanderbilt II, a member of the wealthy Vanderbilt family. Oh, listen to how the story is going to change. Okay. The 70-room, maybe actually they've changed it. We'll see. The 70-room mansion with a gross area. What do you think the square footage is?
I mean, it's gotta be like 20,000 or some shit.
With a gross area of 138,300 square feet and 62,482 square feet of living area on 5 floors. Was designed by Richard Morris Hunt in the Renaissance style. The interior decor was by Jules Alliard and Sons, who is now Jules Alliard and Son is this Paris based, decorate. That's
Interior
all of
design.
yeah, but all of them were using this. Somehow, these guys were not only doing all of this ornate, crazy shit, but they were doing it in multiple locations all at the same time. The Ochre Point Avenue entrance is marked by Baroque forged wrought iron gates, and the 30-foot high walkway gates are part of a 12-foot high limestone and iron fence that borders the property on all but the ocean side. 1880 something, huh? 1893. The footprint of the house covers approximately 1 acre or 43,000 square feet of the 14-acre estate on the cliffs overlooking Easton Bay in the Atlantic Ocean. The house was added to the National Registry of Historic Places in 1971 and was designated a historic national landmark in 1994. It is also a contributing property to the Bellevue Avenue Historic, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so I wonder if they changed this shit. Cornelius Vanderbilt purchased the grounds in 1885 for $450,000, equivalent to 15.3 million in 2023. The previous mansion on the property was owned by Pierre Lolliard IV. It burned on November 25th. And see, they changed it. Oh no, here it is. Listen. It burned on November 25th, 1892. Okay. And Vanderbilt commissioned famed architect Richard Morris Hunt to rebuild it in splendor. It burned to the ground on November 25th, 1892. It was a wooden mansion. Okay, so instead of it being made of wood this time, they built it out of whatever this shit is. Limestone, marble, all that. Okay? Vanderbilt insisted that the building be made as fireproof as possible, resulting in a structure composed of masonry and steel trusses with no wooden parts. He even required that the boiler be located away from the house in an underground space below the front lawn. 1892.
Where is this at?
Hang on. This is in Newport, Rhode Island.
Where there's lots of snow.
This is in November 25th. It burned down. The designers created an interior using marble imported from Italy and Africa, and rare woods and mosaics from countries around the world. It also included architectural elements purchased from chateau in France, such as the library mantle. Expansion was finally finished in 1892.
Isn't that when Columbus sailed the ocean blue and found America?
It burned down on November 25th, 1892. And
But America wasn't a thing yet.
And was finally finished in 1892. It literally took a month to build this shit.
Out of masonry
And steel with shit imported from all over the world. And
so how long does it take to go on a boat from Italy to Rhode Island? Like, at a slow speed, because back then they couldn't go as fast. How long does that take? What's that time frame?
So now they say the breakers, it took a month back in the day. So expansion was finally finished on 1892. So I'm not sure what that means. The breakers is an architectural and social archetype of the Gilded Age, a period when members of the Vanderbilt family were among the major industrialists in America. It was the largest, most opulent house in the Newport area upon its completion in 1895. So what does expansion mean then? If it took a month for expansion was finally finished, which again, he's saying that the designers created using the marbles and the rare woods and mosaics. It also included architectural elements purchased from the chateau in France, such as the library mantle. Expansion was finally finished in 1892.
But what before then when they said they're not using any wooden parts?
Yeah, I don't care about that part. I'm saying this time frame doesn't match up.
The time frame doesn't match. But none of it matches. It's all talking out both sides of their mouth.
Vanderbilt died from a cerebral hemorrhage caused by a stroke in 1899 at age 55, leaving the breakers to his wife Alice Gwynn Vanderbilt. She outlived him by 35 years and died at the age of 89 in 1934. She left the breakers to her youngest daughter, Countess Gladys Gladys. Right here.
Zaycheny?
Fuck if I know. Essentially, because Gladys lacked American property.
So she needed something
Right.
in the States.
In addition, none of her other children were interested in the property, while Gladys had always loved the estate.
Oh no, I don't want that house.
It's only the biggest one of all of them. It's only the biggest, most opulent one.
I mean, where are their other houses though? If they're like, in other countries in beauty, Rhode Island.
No,
sure,
that
in the
that
fall it's pretty, but
no, that part of Rhode Island is beautiful all year round. Whatever.
not with snow.
Even no, it's one of those places that's actually super pretty with snow. And if you have money out the dingus, it's not like you're shoveling. It's not like
go out in the cold though.
yeah, but you go. The servants put your coat on. They have your car all warmed up. I mean, back then, I mean, I can't. I have such a hard time understanding how anyone lived in basically like modern day times, because you look at those houses, you look at the buildings, you look at all that stuff, and yet it was the 1800s.
In Minnesota, who the fuck had a horse pulling them somewhere in Minnesota and 20 below? The horse would die. Sorry, you did not go to church on Sundays in the winter in Minnesota with no car.
I mean, all of it. New York, all of that shit. Maine, all of those areas. But we're supposed to believe that the Pilgrims landed on December 10th in Massachusetts. They were in Massachusetts.
I mean, but they were coming from England that also had snow.
They were coming from.
Well, there were some from France and Spain. But
No, they were coming from. Fuck. Was it Germany? I can't remember. Fuck. No, they were coming from Amsterdam. They were in Amsterdam. And it's a different climate altogether, but I think they were in the Netherlands. They were in a small little Netherlands community. But to think the journey was supposed to take a month, so I would assume they had the provisions for a month. They got lost. They were supposed to land way further south. That's where they wanted to land. But they got lost and blown way off course, and the trip supposedly took 2.5 months or 2 months or something like that. So they somehow had the provisions to survive that. And then they landed on December 10th, and I thought it was November, but the last I checked, it was December 10th. Shit might be changing, I don't know. But to just, it's like you have to be... It either goes with that they were, super Christian, so they had God behind them kind of thing. That it just happened to be, the mildest winter ever, maybe? I don't... But it wasn't. It was really a bad winter. It's the Northeast. They didn't have shelter. Well, the narrative is that where they landed, it just happened to be an area that had been clear cut. A previous, maybe it was Indians, or maybe it was even.
Well, it had to be because
No, it might. There were other white people here before that. It's interesting how we don't talk about it, but it was a clear cut area, so they didn't have to do all that. Thankfully, it's all just a bullshit narrative, and then you get the Squanto aspect, where he was a native born here, kidnapped, taken over there, back to England to be a servant, learned all the English customs, escaped back over here, learned how to be an Indian, got kidnapped again, taken back over there, escaped again, came back over here, and he was walking up the coastline when he saw this settlement of pilgrims starving and not being prepared and all that.
wow, there's some food.
Right, and instead of being like, hey, those look like those same white people that fucked me up, he was like, I'm gonna help them. If it weren't for Squanto, everybody would have died. It's fucking crazy.
Now, see, that's funny because, you know, just a couple years ago, I did the homeschool and had to teach that part of history to my kids. That was the fourth grade curriculum at the time. And that did not come up. That was not part of, you know, I took a compilation of different history books, and that was not something that was talked about and focused on, interestingly enough. And we might have, you know, gone over it in passing, but it was not something that was emphasized by any means. It was more of a
My bad.
focus on
I said December 10th. The Pilgrims landed at Plymouth, Massachusetts on December 21st, 1620.
Yeah, that's better.
Arrived at Cape Cod. The Mayflower arrived at Cape Cod on November 11th, 1620, after 66 days at sea. Docking. The Mayflower docked in Plymouth on December 18th, 1820. First expedition ashore. The first expedition to land ashore took place on December 21st, 1620.
So they stayed out there. They finally, after getting lost, having an extra month and a half on the ship, they finally found land and they docked. But
And
they didn't get off the
they
boat
stayed on
for
the boat
another 2 weeks.
month. They first got to Cape Cod November 11th.
They stayed on that ship for another month and a half.
More than that. Yeah.
Because that makes sense.
Right.
Fuck that. I've been on this boat for 2.5 months.
While it slowly became more winter
Right.
in Massachusetts.
I mean, I could see going back to the boat to sleep at night because you don't have shelter.
Right. You don't even get off the boat. The first expedition, you don't know.
The minute you fucking dock, I'd be like, bitch, get me off this fucking boat.
You'd think.
Just need to feel some land for a minute.
You'd think. There's something called a nor'easter or whatever.
Yeah, those.
And the thing is, those areas of the United States get so much snow because it keeps getting pushed back by the ocean,
so much wind,
and it just keeps getting just recycled. The storms just keep. So these completely unprepared pilgrims,
right in that area,
in a foreign land, just did it. They just did it. Let's try again. Pedophiles, kill yourself.